We got about, I guess, offense and defensively about 170 snaps today. I thought our energy and our urgency and our focus was really good. We still have way too many self-inflicted issues as far as procedure and some silly penalties, some pass interference. We didn't need to have contact, but I saw more competitive plays today as far as a guy making a play with contested coverage, a guy making a run when there wasn't a lot there, a guy rushing the passer when it was protected well. I think early in camp, and you get a little poor opinion sometimes of where we are. When we bust a protection, there's a free runner at the quarterback. That doesn't always happen in the game. And so you bust a coverage down the field and you cut a guy loose. I didn't see that today. I saw a bunch of guys competing, much better energy and urgency of what we needed to do. And, again, 170 snaps. I don't know what kind of weather dance we've been doing, but we didn't get the heat we need. I can assure you of that. That is a huge concern of mine. And I hope we're going to go Monday and Tuesday afternoon. Hopefully we'll get some heat. But we got some live punt and punt block, which was good for us. We got 2 live kickoffs, which is good evaluation, especially for our young players. And, this was a really good move the ball day. We got down in the red zone 2 different periods, and the offense was really successful in the first one, the defense on the next one. So there was some give and take in the scrimmage. But I thought, again, we moved the ball well offensively, especially with our first group. Really pleased with that production and where we are there. Pleased with some of the things we're able to do on special teams a little further along than we've been before because of the depth that we have and being able to rep a bunch of guys. But still have some things to sort out. We'll have an off day tomorrow. We'll watch film. And Monday and Tuesday are critical days for us. We'll have a heavy 1st and 10 red zone day, short yardage goal line day on Monday, and then Tuesday end it with a situational 1-minute third down practice, and which really concludes camp. And then we'll have Wednesday as a total day off for them, and Thursday we'll start on our game planning for Coastal with our guys. We won't practice, but we'll do some mental work. So we're going to have 48 hours with them off their feet, which I think is what they need right now. Injury-wise, Wyatt Campbell had a scope on his meniscus that was injured in high school. It may be about a month because we had to stitch the meniscus itself. And so he's non-weight bearing right now, but this is an injury from high school that we're cleaning up. And Levante Valentine had a scope to clear up some scar tissue. He's probably just 2 weeks, and that was, again, from his high school injury. So we hate that, those guys have missed some times. We've had a couple guys banged up here and there, but no one that is significant and has missed a lot of time. We'll put Chandler Farrell on scholarship today. Kenny and Deanne, as folks were there. Of course, Kenny played here in the 90s, and it was really interesting today. Obviously, we can't get in the stadium, so we practiced on the King family practice fields, and we did our pregame and our halftime in the indoor. And we had about 50 families of our players here today, which is awesome. So they got to walk in at halftime and see us coach our guys and develop our guys, which is a lot of fun. But I know they enjoyed that experience. But I think we've made very good progress. I was extremely pleased with the day just from the standpoint of effort and the urgency and the things you got to play with. The communication was much better. We played with crowd noise in multiple periods. We didn't have a lot of issues, I don't think, with crowd noise. We just got to dial in a little bit better with some silly penalties that we made and get better. But I think we were improving, and I'll open up for any questions.
Well, in terms of just putting in all of your base offensive packages, base defensive packages, where are you at that point? Do you think it's like 75%, 80%, and how much will go fine?
We're over 90% of where we need to do. We're tying up some things. We had a 1-minute situation where we need to center the ball. That's something we haven't gone over yet offensively. Brian had it scheduled to go in on Monday or Tuesday, actually, on a loose downs practice. So there's some things we just need to tie up. We want to look at a couple third down pressures defensively that are really base concepts of what we already have built in. Some special team situational work that we need to go back and hit again. So all things that are certainly well correctable that we can work on moving forward, and things that really are base concepts of what we already have, and just kind of adding on as we've gone through camp and seen some things we really like and that our players are comfortable with.
Who scored for you today? Any big plays?
I'm just trying to. I think first drive offensively, it was a 15-play drive. We ended up scoring on a fourth inside. We were first and goal on the 4. I told Brian he had 4 downs. We scored on a 4th down play. You know, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. We had some big plays, especially with with the younger groups. Some guys stepped up a little bit, but I'm not going to get into individual stuff. I know that the first play I thought was very impressive. We had a couple third downs that were highly contested defensively. That were really well thrown balls. Really nice job catching the football in a 50-50 situation. But they were all contested. There was a couple questionable whether the ball was going to get out or not. The defensive guys all yell at me on that, but I'll deal with that. So, but I was, again, I was pleased with the effort our guys showed today.
Willem, you liked what you've seen out of the running game so far this camp?
I have. I think that the RPOs that we've done before, but we're a little bit more into those now, certainly have helped us, create some matchup issues, especially with some of the guys we got outside. I mean, Brian and Debo and Shy and Ortre, those guys can all win in man coverage. And that's the key in our league. You look at third down, third and 6 or less, the deny the ball down situations. You've got to be able to win. And if you're going to stop RPOs, you got to play some man coverage. Zone coverage is very difficult to play. So, you got to mix things up. You can't, too much chocolate cake will make you sick. But you got to mix things up a little bit there. And certainly being able to have those matchups is good for us. And I think that's helped our run game tremendously. And Jake makes good, quick decisions in it, and Mike does as well.
From the first time you met him to now, how has Javon matured, not as a player but as a young man?
I think in life, sometimes a young man just needs an opportunity, needs somebody to believe in him. And the first time I met Javon, I started talking to him about going to Jones Junior College. And he never met me in his life. I've never talked to the phone. I went down to Goose Creek High School. I don't think that introduction over the phone is very good. You want to try and sit down eyeball to eyeball and talk to somebody about it. He trusted us and what we were going to do as far as helping him get to Jones. And Steve Buckley and his staff did a fantastic job. And anytime Javon probably was a little reluctant to the idea at first, called me when he got there. Couldn't, they didn't have any friends, didn't know any of the coaches. And I mean, it's an unbelievable story, really what it is. And a guy that ended up on the dean's list there, getting back here in May, showing up at 340 pounds, and totally dedicated himself to do the things he needed to do to get his body right. And he's down at 300 pounds and playing at a high level. He ended the last season playing at a high level. So I've seen a guy mature tremendously. When he has his off time, he wants to go to Mississippi. He made a lot of friends out there, which is awesome. So I just think it's one of the great stories about in college football. You look every day, the difference that you're able to make in a young man's life. And he's making a difference for himself. I mean, that's who I would credit the most is a young man that's been through some tough situations and continue to fight and persevere, and he's an example for us all.
When you took this job, how much of what you had to do initially involved infrastructure, program infrastructure?
Well, I think, and again, I don't like to comment from a previous situation. I mean, from our standpoint, we needed more help or work in the recruiting place from an evaluation standpoint. As coaches, you spend so much time coaching, you're on the road recruiting. I'm not able to make a cut up, so we had to hire a lot of manpower, work power in those offices to be able to help us. Create the edits, create what I call point of attack tapes. Not all good things. It's not a highlight tape. It's a point of attack tape. At the point of attack, what is the player doing? Is he making a positive contribution or negative contribution to his team? So we had to really build that department. That wasn't something we necessarily had. We've really built. Coach Tanner's been awesome about helping us in our nutrition department. Kristen Coggin and her staff have done a fantastic job of really expanding things there. As far as what we're doing moving forward, those would be the main two areas that we obviously added a lot to what we do. We have two analysts on each side of the ball, and I think that's plenty. I don't think more is better. I've never felt that way. It comes to a point in your time that you hire coaches and you pay them pretty good to do a job, and so part of your job as a coach is to research your position, research your side of the ball, study your opponents. And I like doing that instead of asking somebody else to do it.
How much from when you started in coaching until now has that stuff changed, the support staff and all that?
Well, I just think that, you know, the totality of a support of a student athlete is not just about football. And obviously it's always been an emphasis in the weight room, but I don't think from the recruiting standpoint, the manpower, and I should add on Justin King. He and his staff have made a difference in our program and our athletic department and our university. And you can say what you want, whether you like social media or not. That's where we are, and it's what appeals to young people. And Justin and his staff have done a great job of marketing our brand, and I'll credit Coach Tanner for that. I mean, that was his idea to bring Justin in, and he has done a fantastic job. So I would say really 3 areas: the recruiting side of things, as far as just the number of people you have to help you, the nutrition side of it, and the marketing and the branding has made a difference in our program.
Well, some of the players have come in, and I've seen the sensor on the back of their shoulder pads for the heart technology. How did you get interested in that, and who monitors that data for you guys and gets it to the player?
Well, that's something we really started probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And I think that the interesting part of it is work capacity. How many exertions does a player have? Total yardage, because generally when you're dealing with some soft tissue issues, there's a lot of different factors. It's not one thing, but sometimes it is yardage. And then miles per hour. How fast are they playing? So a guy can tell me I'm playing really hard, and Debo Samuel's running 22 miles an hour, and you're running 16 miles an hour, and you want to play defensive back? Well, I'm not real smart, but I can figure that part out. So I think that all of those things are motivating factors for players, but most importantly, the health and the safety of our players. To look at a guy like Debo Samuel, to his first year before we got here, had an issue with hamstring. First play of the Mississippi State game, my first year, pulls his hamstring. Then plays at an extremely high level the second part of our first year here. So Clint Haggard and myself go back and look at those numbers, and let's say on a Tuesday practice, what was he averaging? On a Wednesday practice, what was he averaging? On a Thursday practice, what was he averaging? And all of those numbers combined, that's producing him to be the best version of him he can be. So let's hit those numbers. So we may be in a practice, and it might be where he's got 3,000 yards for that day, and Clint Haggard walks up in period 15, and we got 17 periods, and said, Debo hit his number. And Patrick Sheen in our training room monitors that from the catapult system, and he's hit it. He's done. I don't care what BMAC wants to do. He's done. I mean, we've hit his number. And that goes back to practice planning. You got to really plan your practice out the right way to know the numbers. You know, if we're going to put him in these periods, we understand he may not be able to finish the practice. So, it's something that, from an old school approach, you got to adjust your views. But it's the bottom line is you go back and look when guys are being very, very productive, those numbers are showing up and they're real. And they tell you the story about what's best for the player. And that, to me, is the most important thing. So we go back and study. Clint Haggard and I go back on every single guy individually and say, all right, these are the best numbers for him. This is what we're going to manage for. And it's been somewhat productive for us.
Have the kids been pretty receptive?
Well, I think they understand. I mean, they understand we're in it for their best interest. And, when there comes a time that I'll walk up to a player and say, that's it, you're done. And he knows he's hit his numbers. So that's just, kind of how we do it.
Where was the Carolina brand when you got here, especially with the in-state schools, high schools at least around, and what work did you have to do to kind of restore that positivity in that vein?
Well, I think that, obviously coming off a 3-win season, there's not a lot of positive thoughts about your brand. So to me, it's all about building relationships with people, and you do that through working. You do that through communication, whether it's by text, by phone call, or your presence in a high school. And people, I think, in going on our 3rd season, have realized that we're committed to doing that and committed to making a difference. And we've had a tremendously successful year recruiting so far in our state this year. And that goes back to me to relationships with people. It goes back to trust. It goes back to the young men that are having a really positive experience on your campus right now. It goes back to the progress that your team has made from year 1 to where we enter now. And so you can talk about progress all you want. Eventually, you got to show some results. And obviously, in the win column, that helps. But I think anybody that has been a part of our program and seen it from year 1 to now, they've seen progress. They see the different bodies that walk in the room. and the culture of our organization's at a good place.
Have you guys seen any settling out in the kicker situation, or is that still kind of that three-way battle?
Well, we're working through that right now. I mean, today, if we had to make a decision, Parker would be the guy. But again, we got 2 weeks till game day, and that certainly can change. But that right now, if you just ask me off the top, that's what I would tell you.
Will, has any of this concert setup been disruptive for you guys, or is it a situation we knew was coming? We've game planned. Let's just move on.
No, Coach Tanner called me, maybe a year and a half ago, and brought up the idea, and I was all for it. I think it's great for our players. I think it's great for Columbia, great for the University of South Carolina, and I mean this is a win. This is a huge win for us. So, one of our mottos in our organization is adjust, adapt, and overcome. So we did the same timeline we would have done if we played in Williams-Brice today. We trammed over, a little different setup. We had our pregame and our halftime in there. We had about 50 parents walking around watching us at halftime, which was pretty cool. And a little different deal, but our guys handled it well, and that's I think that was good. I think change-up was good for them.
What's going on at backup quarterback, and any update on the 2 transfers and immediate eligibility?
Michael Skarnek is going to be our backup, Phil. I mean, he right now is – there's no question we can win with him. Today I gave him some reps with the first group purposely in the middle of the series to put him in the game, and he responded extremely well. But I think that, the game is – like I've said before, our first year Mike had a shoulder injury, didn't play much at all. And then obviously last year the game continued to slow down for him, and I think he has a really good command of where we are. And I'm very pleased with both Takarion and Jay. Both of those guys showed some things athletically today that we know they have. We got to continue to advance in the throwing game. And I don't have any updates right now on Josh or Jamel. They haven't let us know anything. I know that we've turned everything in, and you know, I'm just kind of in the wait-and-see process right now. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned some injuries at the beginning. Anyone you guys have gotten back off injury, gotten either on the field or gotten the
Rosendo Lewis flashed today. Saw Rosendo back out there, and that was really good. But we hadn't really had anybody. JT Bay got cleared Wednesdays, did some nice things. Saw him today flash a little bit. But we really haven't had anything that's been a long-term other than the ones we discussed.
Do you have any more clarity at this point on Javon Charleston's situation?
No.
And he was one of your special teams guys, key special teams guys. Caleb Kinlaw as well played a lot of special teams snaps. How are guys kind of stepping into those roles with those guys out? And are you pleased with kind of the buy-in on special teams and coverages? Do you have enough athletes there right now?
Well, I think we do. I don't think you'd ever say we have enough. I mean, those are really 2 good core special teams guys for us and made a bunch of plays for us. So we got to continue to promote that in our program. Our players, I think, now understand the importance of special teams and the difference it can make in a game. And so we've certainly improved our team speed from year 1 to now. So I think we're going to have some really good coverage units. I like our specialists. I like our return specialists. Our guys understand that, from a punt returner standpoint, Brian Edwards is going to be a really good punt returner for us. We still got some competition going on there, but if it was day 1 today, Brian would be the guy that would be back. Debo Samuel's as good as there is in the country as a kickoff returner. So our guys understand, let's do our job and give those guys an opportunity. And both of those guys can be special guys as far as returning the ball. But we still got to have some younger guys step up. Unfortunately, RJ's been banged up a little bit. Jalen Dicker's been banged up a little bit. And there's nothing that's serious, but anytime a young player misses a practice or 2, that's like missing a year. I mean, it's so hard for them schematically to catch up, from the practice speed to catch up. And so, again, we've got 2 great work days on Monday and Tuesday, and then we'll have a lot of special teams emphasis on Friday, Saturday, and then on Sunday's practice, and then we're rolling right into game week. So we've got to make some decisions, and I'm very eager to watch the tape from today.
There's actually kind of a little bit of a follow-up on that, but at what point in camp, and I guess going into game week, do you kind of start settling on these are kind of the special teams guys that kind of make the bus by doing that, the sort of end of the roster who are going to go travel, that kind of stuff?
Well, they were told today is a huge day for that. And so, we'll watch the tape and make some decisions. And, we already had a meeting on Friday that kind of talked in terms of on offense and defense, Game 5, is this guy going to help us? You know, and obviously, do those conversations change based on injury, based on a guy progressing a little bit quicker than you thought, or based on a guy regressing? You know, all of a sudden school starts and there's a lot of stuff going on in his life. So, I mean, all of those conversations that you have, which, you know, in my mind, I've got to prepare, you know, moving forward, thinking in terms of who are we counting on. And but I'm eager to watch the tape today. Special teams would be a huge help for some of the young guys to get on the bus.
Does the fact that the offense is moving so fast and having so much success out there, does that make it challenging to get a good read on where the defense is?
Well, I think that we're just the word that I would give you is inconsistent. I think we've been very inconsistent. I think we've had some really good days. I think we've been very inconsistent in our performance. A lot of it, in my opinion, had nothing to do with ability. You know, it's from just effort and energy and focus and getting aligned, because the tempo does affect you. It affects you tremendously. So those are things that we have improved. Are we where we want to be? No. But I feel, you know, a little anxious in some positions at safety, you know, backup linebacker. You know, those are some positions that I'm concerned with, you know. So we'll continue to work, and I'm again eager to watch the tape today to see how things looked.
You kind of just mentioned it, but that safety position, how anxious is it that you might have to move a Harvey or another guy back there and kind of take them away from another spot to shore up that?
Well, it is. I mean, that's always a concern. And we've had a lot of discussions in the last 72 hours of who are our best 4, who's our best 5, and who's our best 6. So, you know, in those conversations, you know, we've got to continue to whittle down and make sure the guys are getting the turns and reps at the spots, because you can't keep changing guys. You can't keep moving guys around, especially when you run multiple looks like we do, and then, you know, you're upset at a guy for not being totally certain of what he needs to do. So, again, we'll watch the tape and make some evaluations about what we saw, and looking forward to getting back on the field Monday.
It seems like the last couple of years, AJ Turner has always been able to sort of carve out a role no matter who's around him or kind of what's going on. What about him sort of allows him to sort of find a spot here, there, and everywhere with different guys kind of?
Well, AJ is talented with the ball in his hand, but also for a guy that's just 190 pounds, is a really good protector. He's really good on third down. He catches the ball extremely well, and probably is you'd say our best cover guy, whether you're talking in terms of punt or kickoff. Also has return skills. So AJ is you would term it in the NFL, he creates value for your team, because he's a guy that can play in multiple phases and impact your team in a positive way. But AJ likes football, and he practices the right way, and he's been used multiple times in fall camp for an example of how you practice, and whether it's on special teams and whether it's on offense, and just to show the example of how he goes about his business. So, again, I'm glad AJ's a Gamecock.
What did you see out of Brian to look at him at punt returner, and also did you see something today, and also what made you want to put Chandler on scholarship?
Well, Brian, returned kicks at Conway, but he's got really good ball judgment. His situation, our first year, we really wanted to go to him, and that's when we had some soft tissue issues with him, and never really could feel comfortable getting him out there all the time doing it. But just really did a nice job this summer working at it. Nick Harvey's been another guy that's done a nice job with it. Josh Van's going to be a really good punt returner for us. Shy Smith has done a nice job. We got some guys that we have confidence more than we've ever had. But Brian right now, I would say, has distanced himself a little bit as far as those things are concerned. But again, a big, strong guy that's hard to tackle, especially in the open field. Chandler, I told the team, if you want to talk in terms of, we're a blue-collar organization, and we talk about effort, we talk about toughness, we talk about discipline, we talk about team-first mentality, and we talk about competing and earning what you get. And Chandler Farrell in 2 years has done those things to a T. He's the epitome of a guy that does those sort of things. And right now he's our backup center. He's being pushed by Hank Manos, who's doing a really nice job too. But he gives us some position variety. If Darius Hutcherson goes down, Donnell can play guard. I mean, he gives us some flexibility of what we're doing because of the way he's worked, changed his body since he's been here, and certainly really proud of him. And it was great to have Kenny and Deanne here today.
Well, last week I think you mentioned Tevin Jackson had some heat issues. How's he doing? Has he been able to get back?
Has not been practicing, and so it's been a struggle for us because Taven's a really talented young man, and still working through those situations right now. All righty. Thank y'all.